with Excite Media's new program, Sort of More Social Hey there, and welcome to Thursday. You're back with The Kick here, Excite Media's program to help you grow your business and introduce you to great people who can work with you here at Excite Media as well. Although coming up after Easter, we're starting to get some special guests from other organisations, a lot of great topics lined up, some to do with how to focus your mind when you're in business. So many competing priorities. How do you actually chart a road ahead? And also we'll be talking to one of our guests from last year, who was dealing with women in business, Susan Brangrove. Looking forward to having her on the show. But today we're going to be focusing on a great topic that captures the imagination, baffles the boffins, and that's SEO, or search engine optimization. But to do that, we need to get to know one of the long-time players here at Excite Media, and that is Shane Rose. Shane, thanks very much for joining us this morning. How you been?
Yeah, good, mate. Pleasure to be on.
Hey, it's really appropriate that we chuck up the Australian Web Awards that we picked up last year. Now, at the moment, the judges are going through all the entries for 2022. But in 2021, we actually picked up the SEO award. It was actually one of your clients, Pet Express. Let's find out a little bit about them in a little while. But before we do that, I want to get to know a bit of your own background. Now, you've been with Excite Media for how long now? Can you kind of remember the date when it all began and you haven't escaped so far?
Not as yet, no. We started me on a date that made it nice and easy to remember. So it's 1st of June actually, and that will be this year 14 years.
14 years, that's incredible. Yeah. Show us the scars, tell us the war stories. Is there one kind of memorable moment that you kind of look back to? I remember when I first joined, one of the key things we used to do was have the odd barbecue, and you were definitely the maestro of basting the chickens and making sure that was happening. But anything else that springs to mind, a fun moment in those 14 years of being with the Excite Media team?
Oh, look, there's too many to mention, really. A lot of good memories, I'd say, from the old office back in the days when we were smaller. And around that sort of time when you did first come on board. So sorry to any of the newer employees, you're great as well. But back in those days, we were a bit smaller, probably got away with a few more things than we could now. And yeah, had lots of fun times there. So
all that flexibility and adaptability. Hey, Shane, outside of digital, now I remember you were looking after our SEO team. You're now one of our senior account managers looking after some very important clients. What do you enjoy about digital? Why did you actually get involved, and what holds your attention to keep in the industry?
I kind of fell into it, actually, to start with. Funnily enough, I started because I was studying accounting. Don't hold that against me. And so I came on board at Excite to do the accounts. So I did that for a little while, and then one of the directors, Nathaniel, was originally doing our Google Ads and SEO back in those days when we were much smaller, and he didn't have enough time for it. So they sort of said, does it interest you to get involved with it? And I said, yeah, I'll get into that, and have been involved in one way or another ever since. As you say, I'm more on the account management side now. But yeah, I think the fact that it's just such an ever-changing industry. It's, as we deal with a lot of clients in a lot of different industries. And for me, that's something that really keeps it interesting as well, is being able to get a feel for all these different types of businesses, how people are running their business, seeing, what's impacting on businesses in different industries, and then, trying to mesh all that together with the changes that we see in SEO and all these sorts of areas, and, helping people succeed.
It's interesting because one of the key areas that I enjoy is that flexibility and a little bit of inside info. One of my early jobs was actually working for the ANZ Bank. And when I actually left the banking industry, it was kind of because it felt like it was same old, same old. Digital, it's always changing. Google's changing the rules, Facebook's changing the rules, or the client's business is changing. So you're right, we have to keep on our toes. Today we're going to be talking about SEO, but let's have a little bit of an introduction to who is Shane Rose. And to do that, be really good if you ever want to find out a bit more about our staff and our team, do go over to excitemedia.com.au. And if you go to the team page, you can get a lot of fun just finding out the background behind our team. But this is an interesting and beautiful shot of yourself. You've kind of combined two passions in one there with a big smile on your face. Tell us what those shoes mean to your background and what kind of personal passion you enjoy.
Yeah, so it's probably a bit of a giveaway there for the shoes and the Lycra that I do enjoy a bit of cycling. So definitely one of the things I like to do on weekends, but also, it's a great way to start the day as well. I'll often be out there riding during the week before coming into the office to get kicked into things. So that and camping actually is another big one for me. But I love getting out on the road. So
big open spaces.
Yeah.
I saw the photo turn up on Facebook just overnight, and I only recognise it because it's a great place to go for a coffee at Mount Gravatt. You go there for the hill climbs. What's it like doing hill climbs on places like Mount Cootha in Brisbane or Mount Gravatt? It must be absolutely killer on the legs.
Yeah, it can be, particularly when you haven't been doing it enough, which is the situation I find myself in at the moment. But yeah, practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the better the legs handle it. But there's a lot of crazy people out there. There's a trend that's taking off a lot at the moment, which is Everesting, which you have to climb the equivalent height of Everest in one go, essentially, on the same hill. So just up and down, which I think, so people have done that on the backside of Mount Cootha, which I think they have to do something like 90 reps or something like that. So it's a long process, but that's not for me. One or two will do me.
That's absolutely stunning. Hey, for a long time, you were actually looking after our SEO team, and you know the importance of SEO with our clients. And the topic that we wanted to chat to you about is what are the important ingredients for SEO to be successful in 2022. Now, I just want to visit a couple of your clients first and then get you to give us some ideas. So let's make sure that we do it in the right order. Now, it's always good if people come on our Facebook or our LinkedIn pages and leave a comment, especially if they include an emoji. Thank you, Jacob, for getting in behind us. Listen, if you want to support the Excite Media team, share these videos, share them with your friends. One of the reasons we're doing them is so that these recordings are on our Facebook page, they're on our YouTube channel so that we can share them with clients, and you're more than welcome to do the same. So, Shane, why don't we go over and have a talk about the client that actually won the Australian Web Awards last year, and that was this team. And I love the story of this. A Brisbane couple that get involved in pet transport, but they moved to Brisbane, California to do it. Now, we had some great results come through, but do you want to give us an update of what we've been doing with Pet Express?
Yeah, so Scott, he's a great client to work with. And yeah, as you say, he came on board with us living in Brisbane, Australia, and now is residing in Brisbane over in the US, so that he can control his business over there a bit better, so which is working well for him. We had this client on board since 2019, and then obviously 2020 COVID was hitting, which if you're involved in pet transport, which involves international flights, you're probably not thinking that the future is going to be too bright. But we were lucky enough to be able to, work well with Scott and his team, focus on a lot of content, get them some really good rankings for key terms. And he actually, they've actually done really well through COVID considering. And we've just, been able to continue to really help them with their organic rankings, all that time since, which is great because, as an account manager looking after that sort of business in those times, I didn't necessarily see it going too well. So Yeah, that's been really good. So, and as you said, we managed to pick up an award for the SEO work that we did, which essentially, since we took it on, we actually managed to increase the organic traffic by about 400%. So, given the times that we're in, pretty pleasing for our behalf, but obviously for the client as well.
I remember talking to Scott in 2019, and they had actually invested quite a bit in the pet accommodation in one of the airports, almost creating these little like boutique hotels for the animals. And you can imagine what it's like as a business owner. You've invested in your business, you're preparing for the future. Then somebody decides to introduce a pandemic. Thanks very much. But it was exciting to see the change that we've seen them incrementally go from strength to strength. Let's have a look at another client of yours. And this one I think is a really interesting industry that's just growing and growing, and that's drones. So we've been working with UAV for a while, and I know they came to us with a lackluster website that wasn't performing. Tell us about what you've been doing with them over the last little while.
Yeah, so another great client to work with. As you say, very interesting industry with drone training. So yeah, been working with UAV for about 3.5 years now, and when they came to us, they were really just starting out. So we kind of have helped them a lot. And they've their business has changed a lot over the time, and we've sort of helped guide them through that as well. Content has been a big thing for them. One of the big things, which we might talk about a bit more later as well, is the keys to success in SEO is we actually helped UAV training gain a featured snippet in the Google results, which essentially has been a big help in the amount of organic traffic that they've been driving, getting to the site. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff that as well.
And I understand we're working with them on other projects as well. Is content a consistent part of the discussion?
It is, yeah. So it's one of the blog articles that we created actually on drones in the agriculture industry. That's managed to gain the featured snippet in Google, and yeah, so working on those pieces of content, super valuable and can help any business get a lot more traffic to their site, which everyone wants.
And you mentioned this idea of a featured snippet. So can you describe that? What does it actually mean for somebody?
Yeah, so basically for some searches, Google will put one particular result at the top of the results page. It gives it its own little box and contains the information. So you'll see it there with the image beside it. So essentially for that query, Google's essentially saying this is the result that we think best answers this question. So, to have your information from your website featured there is pretty good. And obviously, because it's takes up such a big amount of real estate in those search engine results, you get a lot of clicks from it. So, yeah, in turn, a lot of eyes on your website.
Bringing that image through is a nice part of the feature, really draws the eye. And understand quite a bit of traffic has been coming through to UAV because of this particular link.
Yeah, that's right. So as soon as we realized that it was getting featured snippet status, they had about a 30% increase in organic traffic to the site. And obviously organic traffic to that blog particularly, had a massive increase. I'm not sure of the percentage, but, it would have gone from sort of in the handful of sessions a month to close to 1,000. I think I looked in 1 month last time I checked. So yeah, it's a big increase.
So SEO is changing. It's not uncommon for me to talk to a business owner who knew what SEO was 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and they might even say, I used to do it myself. I put all the terms in the back of my website. But when we look at 2022, it's a different game, isn't it? What do you think are some of the things we should focus on if we want to get our SEO right this year?
Yeah, good question. There's definitely a few things. Core web vitals is a really big one. So that's essentially Google is trying to focus now on making sure that the user experience on websites is as good as it can possibly be. We've all been there in the past where you get to a site, it takes a while to load, and we don't have time to sit around and wait for that to happen. So you don't want that happening. You don't want images not displaying properly and things being jumbled around and all those sorts of things. So there's a lot of elements that are in there in the core web vitals, but that's something that we look at pretty closely as part of SEO these days to ensure that when people do hit that website, they're going to get a great experience and they're going to want to stay on there and engage with that site, and ultimately engage the client for their product or service.
It's kind of like Google's providing it. Would you call it a scorecard or a health check on the website?
Yeah, that's essentially a good way to put it. Yeah, so there's a couple of categories. You get a score out of 100 essentially for each one. There's like speed and all these sorts of things. So you can kind of just work your way through different elements of it, see how close or how good your score is out of 100, and keep moving the needle up.
So that's really kind of making sure that your website's ship-shape. And it's often we leave our websites to decay without looking after them properly. What else can we do to improve SEO? Is content still a feature, and what kind of content should we use?
Yeah, content still does play a big part. Obviously, there's so many searches done on Google every day. So the more content, good quality content anyway, that you have on your site, the more likely it is that you're going to appear for one of those searches, and you'll ultimately get more eyes on your site. It's still a huge part of it, as we saw with that featured snippet example for UAV training. If they didn't have that article that had been created, that's however many users. As I said, I think it was 1,000 in a month when I last checked. So that's people that probably otherwise weren't going to see their site. Super important. And there's a lot of tricks and ways that you can look to work out what content you should write. And obviously, you can come to us and we can help you with a lot of that. But one of the big things as well I'd recommend for people is looking at their competitors. You don't want to copy what your competitors are doing, but you can certainly look at what they're doing, see what terms they rank for, and then we can do an analysis in depth on the site as well to see what elements in terms of content and SEO elements as well that those competitors have that maybe your site's lacking on, and then we can essentially match and outdo them. So that's one of the big things we concentrate on these days as well.
It's interesting we talk health checks. I mean, if either of us fell over, and I'm probably more likely to fall over than you are, but the first thing people are going to do is they're going to check our pulse, see if there's a heartbeat. And when it comes to a website, the heartbeat of your website has to be regular, relevant content coming in. And if Google can't see any change in your website for the last 12 or 18 months, it's probably going to rank you down. So I guess that content frequency is important. Hey, good to see we've got Ali bringing in, cheering from the sidelines. Thanks, Ali. Good to see you. And Shane's doing well, holding his own up against me. Frequency of content, what would you recommend for a small business?
Oh, look, it's a tough question. I mean, I would say as regularly as you can create it, bearing in mind that you still want it to be quality. That's the honest answer. And to break that down a bit further, I guess, realistically, if you could do monthly, that's good. Maybe say fortnightly, depending on what your business is, great. Any more than that, excellent. But also whatever can work. If you can only do something quarterly, but it's a great piece of content, then you're definitely still better off doing that than not doing it at all. So
Yeah, and I think most business owners are running short on time. We all acknowledge it, but that's why you get an accountant to look after the books, to take that off your shoulders. If you get a relationship with somebody that can create content for you and they're working with you regularly, they'll get to know your business, and you can get that regular dripping of content into your website. And then every now and again, like Shane's client, you'll find one piece that really resonates and gets you traffic. And then we can turn that into some form of sales capture tool, can't we?
Yeah, that's right. And just going back to what I said as well, quality content is important, but also don't let that hold you back. Don't be thinking that you have to have an absolute masterpiece, a piece of content to add to the site. Because again, like you said, if you don't make changes to your website and keep updating it, then Google does start to see it as being outdated. If you haven't updated your site in 3 years, then how can it possibly be the most relevant and up-to-date site? It can't be. So keep adding the content and just make it as good as you possibly can.
Love it. If you want to know more, you can go to excitemedia.com.au, have a look at the whole team page, have a look at Shane's bio, find out more about the passionate people that we have that are available to help you out. Shane, thanks very much for being on The Kick. Going to get you back in a couple of months' time and talk about some more of your clients, and all the best with the weekend Easter camping. Don't get lost.
I'll try not to. Thanks for having me on, Andrew, and enjoy your weekend as well, mate.
Well, it's always good to catch up with the team, find out about the people that actually deliver the goods for our clients. And Shane's been with us for some time, really knows the ins and outs of SEO, and a great advisor to his clients. If you'd like to know more, make sure that you connect with us online. Remember that you've got a suite of services that you can come to Excite Media for, everything from website, graphic design, through to delivering right fit clients for you. And we'd love to be able to work with you. We'll be back next week, every now and again dropping in a TKO session. Yesterday we talked with our General Manager, Chris Taylor, about the new .au domain. You'll find that on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, if you want to know more about what's happening there. And I'll be back with another guest next Thursday.